Welcome, everybody. This is Our Android Week with Alan Furstenberg in New York, Bruce Turner in Lynchburg, Virginia, Lou Carrico in Kingsport, Tennessee, Thaddeus Kalut in Newport Beach, California, and in Menifee, California, Pam Adger. This is Our Android Week. Good to have you with us. I'm Dan McDermott, your host. Okay, so I'm underdressed and running behind and basically a cluster you-know-what. But we're here. Having disappointed you so many times the last few weeks, I thought I wanted to make an extra special point to be here. And so I appreciate our panel tonight. So far, we have Alan Thaddeus joining us. Our first story, this is a really good roundup. It's from Forbes. I saw a couple of the stories I was going to use, and I saw them collectively, and I want to give this guy some props here. Evan Spence is a Forbes guy, and he writes this column. So the first in this roundup is what's up with this. I saw like Google is abandoning a bunch of its users with the security update, and then I saw a story that said, wait, not so fast. What's the real story here? On the heels of this story about the Google Microsoft thing, where Microsoft has things they're not patching, either they're minimal and don't need to be patched, it's not worth the effort, or whatever, but they're not doing it in the 90-day window, and Google's releasing it anyway. And then here we see this story. What's the deal here, Alan? Should we be concerned, or is this much ado about nothing?
Yeah, of course we should be concerned. This is a vulnerability in a key component in Android. It affects versions 4.3 and below, and Google has no intention to fix it because the carriers have no intention to update any fix that they might get.
4.3
So
is what? Ice cream
I'll
sandwich?
blame the carriers very firmly on this one.
Oh, Jelly Bean and below. So that's a thing.
Yeah. And Jelly Bean still has something like, we're still talking 60 or so % of the market.
Okay.
What are your thoughts, Thaddeus?
Well, it sounds like the carriers are just going to take it. It's just going to happen. They're gonna end up, when something happens to a mass number of users, everyone's going to point fingers at the carriers. Is what's going to end up happening. So.
Well, but here's the thing. No, they're going to point fingers at Google, even though it's the carrier's fault.
Is it a fair dig, or is that like saying that if a Kindle Fire has an issue, it's Google's fault, when really what Google puts out and what Kindle puts out are two very different things out of Google's control?
Well, the problem here is that it is somewhat out of Google's control. The carriers aren't going to update it, but, this isn't, Verizon Android, this is Google Android. So Google's going to be blamed for it. Now, I think Google should fix the bug and make it available in the 4.3 release, in the 4.3 Android open source project, and say that it's been fixed, so that they can say, hey, blame the carriers, blame the phone manufacturers for not doing this update.
Okay, so we all agree. I don't really know. All right, so the next story on this roundup here is entitled with the wonderful internet clickbait headline, "Nobody's using a lollipop," although it's actually pretty accurate. I have heard that my Note 2 is supposed to get lollipop, which actually was a pleasant surprise, and my Nexus 7, the original version from, I guess, 2012, does have it, but I'm also hearing mixed reviews at the same time of lollipop. I like it, but I also like KitKat. They're very different. So what, is this just interesting data, Alan, or is this...
Well, not very many users have Lollipop.
I'm trying to put this in perspective. If we compare this to the rollout of KitKat or the rollout of Jelly Bean or Ice Cream Sandwich, of course, this is a major number release. Lollipop, really, Ice Cream Sandwich, that was not a major number change, right? That was not like from 3 point something to 4, or was it?
From Ice Cream Sandwich to Jelly Bean? No.
Ice Cream Sandwich was the 4.0 release.
Okay,
that
so
was the big
that
release.
was the gigantic. I think Ice Cream Sandwich clearly was a bigger, giant leap than Lollipop is. Is that fair to say? For being going from 3 to 4 to 4 to 5?
Yes and no, because it actually didn't go from 3 to 4. It went from 2.4 to 4. Because version 3 was just for,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right. Honeycomb was, yeah.
and there was a major gap in between when they released it.
Was 3
Um,
the Windows 8 of
no,
Android?
3 was just a very targeted
It was
release.
to Google TV.
Okay.
Um, I think this points to a real problem, though, that we don't see, again, we don't see the phones and the carriers doing the upgrade. This reminds us once again that Nexus users are in a vast minority of Android users that are out there. But if we do the number-to-number comparison, KitKat had something like 1.1% within a month after it was released. Lollipop, it's been released over a month and it still hasn't shown up yet on the statistics.
Really?
I just looked at the January 5th dashboard
Wow.
statistics. It doesn't show up yet.
I thought it was like 0.5%, to be fair. Or
I thought
something.
Lollipop was on more phones than KitKat was in the same time window. Wow.
Well, let's put it this way. As of January 5th, less than 0.1% of the phones that hit the Play Store are using it.
Wow.
I'll tell you, I'm looking at my phone. I just went through, I was all excited because I had heard that the Note 2 was going to get a Lollipop update. And so I assumed that Sprint was going to do it. And then, like the day before yesterday, I got the whole thing telling me, an update is available for your advice or for your device. And then I did the thing, and it's like the long process, and then the robot, the android with the belly open and the sparks flying, and I was all like, ready to just lose control. And then here we go. It's updated to 4.4.2. So I was like, what the hell? That's like a birthday party, but not yet. But I like KitKat. I mean, it's not like I mean, clearly going from KitKat to Lollipop was, I think, billed as more of a leap than it really is. It's different, but I don't know if it's, oh my, it's not like ice cream sandwich coming from,
Gingerbread.
gingerbread.
And yes, it is. There are a ton of major internal changes.
To
The
the
visual
user
change.
experience, it's that
What
different.
was, what was that?
When you went from gingerbread to ice cream sandwich, and I agree on from your perspective as a developer, your point's
I went
valid.
from
But from the
gingerbread to
user
jelly bean.
perspective, you think really?
I went from gingerbread to jelly bean, and there were almost no user interface changes in that jump. The biggest change there was that they optimized things so it moved a little bit faster.
No, gingerbread to ice cream sandwich, which was considered the first time
I
when
didn't get ice cream sandwich because my lame-o Samsung phone was a piece of.
as opposed to mine, which has just been upgraded to Android 0.018.
You're saying from gingerbread
He skipped
to where'd
ice
you
cream.
go?
He skipped
I,
ice cream sandwich and went right to
I
jelly
skipped ice
bean.
cream sandwich. I had a gingerbread phone. I got the first jelly bean phone.
And you're saying that there was no change going from gingerbread? I mean, look-wise, UI-wise?
I'm saying UI-wise, the changes were marginal.
Wow.
Let me ask the same question to Cadeas. In your humble opinion, and I'm as I say this, I'm in my mind going back to when ice cream sandwich came out and Alan was on this program, all but hyperventilating about how awesome it was going to be. Cadeas, do you think
I wasn't on this program talking about how awesome ice cream sandwich was. I really don't know where you're coming from on this one, Dan.
I'm a tabloid publisher? You totally were on the program.
Well,
I'm just
my
kidding about
perspective,
that.
I'm shocked that you would say that because everything prior to Ice Cream Sandwich, Alan, was the reason why I didn't like Android. And so at the point that Ice Cream Sandwich had a real chance. So for you to say that we went from gingerbread or you went from gingerbread to Kit Kat and didn't notice it is really
No. Kit Kat to jelly bean.
well. That's still
Okay,
Kit
let
Kat to jelly bean. Okay,
No,
I can
sorry.
gingerbread.
Ice cream
Gingerbread
sandwich
to
was
jelly
before jelly bean. But here's my point. When ice cream sandwich came out, everyone who was like, Android's great. I love Google. I mean, they're okay, but they're like better than Palm Pilot or Palm OS, better than Palm Trio, but they got nothing on iOS. And then Ice Cream Sandwich came out, and it was like, oh my God, wow, they're really going for the gusto here. That this is actually pretty comparable. Maybe not quite there yet in some ways, maybe better in some ways, but this is a serious, like, do you like CBS or NBC better? It's like, it's not like, cable, local public access cable versus a network. I don't see that kind of jump here in perception. Having both,
What
I have
are you
KitKat.
smoking?
Am I what?
What are you smoking?
I'm just saying that was the ice cream sandwich, wasn't that considered the major leap forward?
Yes, but Lollipop is considered a major leap forward as well by everyone who talks about it and uses it.
Okay.
Material design.
Material,
That's the
yeah.
difference between the ice cream sandwich and lollipop would be material design.
From a
Okay.
user point of view. But the UI difference between gingerbread and
Are you meaning
ice
to
cream,
say gingerbread?
yeah, between gingerbread and ice cream sandwich, I'm not saying it wasn't there, but it was minimal. Notifications still mostly looked like notifications.
And they still sucked. They were a lot better than they used to be, but
The
they
action
sucked.
buttons were still pretty much the same action buttons.
I got to tell you, I'm glad that Google comes up with these dessert, fruity concoction names, because trying to remember these Android version numbers would be like trying to name IP numbers versus domain names. It just makes no sense.
iOS does it just fine, Dan.
iOS and Microsoft do it fairly well. Except if someone can find the missing Windows 9, I think there's a reward being offered. Um, if anyone can do that. So, all right, we all agree that Alan and his friends think that Lollipop is a giant leap forward for a one step for man and one giant leap for mankind. So, okay, next up is the Nokia thing. I don't care about. What's this Galaxy mistake thing? Is this? Oh, this the screen size issue. He's saying that there's a big an error. They're going to actually make the S6 even bigger. I can tell you, as a Note 2 owner, I still maintain that my screen is just a little bit too big. Does anyone care about this story? Or am I just killing time until the next story? Okay.
I couldn't find the story, so
I think the screen size issue is I'm getting tired of it. I said it before, I said it again. I'm tired of these phablets. So who cares?
You wascally wabbit, you. Okay, so next is this stoner story here. Really, it's a review of Google Translate. I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard some people say some good things about it, and some have expressed mixed reviews. But it's I guess it's sort of an early version. And this, correct me if I'm wrong, Alan. Is not that I need to ask you to do that, but this is, I guess its claim to fame is, while it's a step forward, it also has a lot more offline capability than was previously available. Is that fair to say?
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
what is it offering more offline, Dan?
I thought it worked offline versus not working offline.
But the previous one did too. So
So
I'm
I,
wondering
I
what's it
literally
offering.
so I literally have no idea what I'm talking about then. I thought no, because I saw mixed reviews of this, and all right. So I think before the show began, Cadeas said, "There's nothing good until the whatever story," and I guess to prove his point, I have stumbled upon other stories. So there's a story here in our Flipboard thing about the modular Android phone, which is project. Is it Aura or Era? How do you pronounce it?
All right.
Ara. So I gave two options and there was a third, which I obviously missed. So what's the deal here? They're going to open it in Puerto Rico or test it in Puerto Rico. And I think it's a fascinating concept. We've talked about it a few times before. Is this going to become a thing where, just like, you buy, if you're building you're building your hi-fi stereo set and you're going to choose the whatever amplifier and the whatever speakers, and you can really customize it, and build your rack out. Is are the phones in our pocket going to be this, or is this a Nexus Q, a Radio Shack project board, if you will?
I don't think it's a Nexus Q. I think that there is some people that would gravitate to this. I think it'll be kind of like the Nexus brand, where there's just certain people that use it. I don't think that it's going to be this new wave of doing things.
Alan, I think of this in the negative sense. I think like this seems kind of weird. People kind of want to buy it and use it because that's our standard. But people liked walking until they discovered horses. So the positive side of this is that it'd be kind of neat if my Palm Trio battery's still great and I like the case, but I like this new Android thing and I can plug that module in, and I like my Note 2 sized screen, so I've got that on there. Does this make any sense, or do you think this is
This makes sense, but totally not in the way you're picturing it. And in
okay?
fact, it's probably not the way that most people are picturing what this phone is. So everyone's thinking, okay, this is just going to be like the old PCs where you can open up the case, pop out a card, pop in a different card, or swap hard drives if you want. And that's not what this phone is about. I mean, yes, it will do that, but that's not what it's really meant for. What it's meant for are the hardware developers who are currently trying to build things that plug into a phone and have a hard time doing so. So, when Square or PayPal puts in a card reader, they have that plugging into the audio port. Or when, I think it's Hilti, produces a laser rangefinder that plugs into your phone, that has to plug into some other port. What this is doing is it's saying, okay, if you want to make those things, you just snap it onto the phone. You don't need to worry about finding a port to plug it into. The phone is the port. So it'll be things like, the guy who goes out on a construction site, he takes his cell phone, he walks out there, and, when he needs to use the laser rangefinder, he pops off the module that stores his kids' pictures and pops on the rangefinder module, does his thing with it, and when he's done with it, he just pops it off, puts it back in his pocket, and puts the extended memory back onto it. That's what this is all about. Now, mind you, I think it's got a very limited application. I think very few people will use it, and while I think it's a brilliant idea, I don't think many people are going to care.
And I think that the reason why people have that understanding is because when the original idea came out, that's how it was presented, that the way Dan interpreted it. So that's the first time I'd heard it from the angle that you've explained it, and that makes a little more sense. But then that still says the same thing. That's going to be a certain number of people who are going to be interested in this market, and the rest of the world will continue going normal.
Yeah, it's a fairly narrow market for this, and they said from the beginning that was how it was going to be used. That their intention was to create it so that you could pop modules out and put them back on while the system was running. You wouldn't need to shut it down to swap modules or anything. Which, from a technology point of view, is pretty cool, but limited use.
I think it's just awful that someone could just, as you say, have his way with it and then just pop it off. And just swap modules. All right, so this is an interesting experiment. We'll see how it goes. All right, so moving down our list, Google stopped. Oh wait, that we've done. The Tizen phone. Samsung finally releases a Tizen phone. What is the deal? Remind me again of Tizen and why I should or shouldn't be excited about that. Is that a thing? It's an emerging market thing, or what the hell is it?
No, it's Samsung realizing that everyone is making Android stuff, so they need to make themselves different.
Hang on one second, Alan. I apologize. I've got to stop.
But
I've got to stop this because. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Alan. I'm sorry. One of my sales
it's
reps was
basically Samsung saying, hey, we don't like the fact that we actually have to follow Android's rules, so we're going to go our own way. So they introduced this operating system that they think they can get people to actually use. They've put it into their TVs even. I think this is a big misstep on Samsung's part. What do you think, Kadeus?
Well, I mean, wouldn't you say the same thing about WebOS and LG? Kind of the same thing.
Yeah, and look at how well that turned out.
I mean, yeah, they're putting it in their TVs and the whole 9 yards. So, No, I don't like Tizen. I'm actually more prone to use WebOS from LG than I would Tizen any day. I just don't like it. I wish Samsung would just focus on making good hardware and just stop trying to do whether it's TVs or anything else. Just focus on the hardware because that's what they do best or have done best in the past. So I don't know. I'm sure nobody's gonna buy this. Is it even running Android apps?
I think it does. I'm not positive on that though, to be honest.
I mean, because
But I
now
think you
you're
need to get
asking
them from the
developers.
Tizen store.
Oh God. So I mean, so we're going down the road of the Amazon phone all over again,
Yeah,
pretty much.
pretty much. I mean, we got to remember this is why Google created Android, and this is why they released it as an open source project. It was to say, having a billion different operating systems isn't helping anyone out. So let's give everybody one operating system that everybody controls. I think this is just a mistake on Samsung's part.
Yeah, but I mean, they did the same with their watches. So I mean, it's the same. Then they ended up just going ahead and running back to Android and
Yeah. So
doing it.
flipping to the next page. Google needs to fix Android Wear in 2015 to fend off the Apple Watch.
Do you really think we need to fend that off, though?
Well, I don't, because I think Apple's made even bigger mistakes than Google's made with Android Wear. But Apple's got one big thing going for it:
Their name.
their name.
That's it.
It's a big thing. I mean, everyone's going to be, wowing over the Apple Watch whether or not it's good. And it'll take Apple a couple of years to get it, more in shape, and hopefully by then Google will have, proven themselves with Android Wear. But I mean, I think there are some issues with the current Android Wear. I think, in general, they've taken the right approach. I'm not sure developers understand that approach yet, but I think in general they're gone in the right direction.
Hmm. Okay. So,
This article's point, this article tries to make the point that Google Now is great, but it doesn't work.
but I think Google Now works.
Well, he makes some interesting points that it Google Now does an okay job, but it still falls behind. It still makes silly mistakes. So it tries to steer you to places on. It tries to give you directions to work on Sunday, for example.
Okay. But see, but when you look at the other platforms, they're not even trying to get you to work. So, I mean, you're criticizing the thing that's in the front. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, like I said, I think Android Wear is ahead of everybody else in understanding how a wrist wearable device should be used. But I think there's work on the whole context sensitive responses, and that still needs work, I think.
And that's probably more on the developer side than it is Google side.
Well, some of it's a limitation in what Google's letting you do, but yeah. I think that's about it on the topics for this week, because we're now starting to run into stuff that I've seen before.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So, I guess we should.
This means we get to wait until Dan has stepped away from the camera for some reason, and he's the only one who can end the show. What did what's your reaction, Cadeus, to the end of the Glass Explorer program?
I don't really have a reaction. I mean, it's just moving forward. So I'm not seeing why there's even a discussion on this. I mean, it was a program to test out the stuff. They tested it out. They got enough data. And now they're ready to move forward or not move forward, whatever their decision is. So, I mean, this program, we knew that this was going to end at some point. So I don't know why people are making a big deal out of it.
Well, I think people are making a big deal out of it because the newspapers, the media is all spinning it as Glass was a failure, and here's the proof. And I don't think that's what the evidence says at all.
Yeah, I'm on the side of it. It's moving forward, regardless of what that means. I mean, it's debatable whether moving forward means we close the project completely and we're not interested in Glass anymore, or moving forward meaning, hey, we're getting ready to release a public version now. But I mean, either way, it's a step forward. It's not a step back.
Well,
I
and
mean,
I think transferring it to the consumer products division indicates, they
right.
are
I
moving
mean,
forward, that it's not that they're closing up shop.
this whole thing, but here we're going to assign this to the dude over Nest. I mean, like that doesn't make logical sense. So
It
clearly
does.
they're moving forward.
I
So
don't know. It makes sense to. I mean, it doesn't make sense if you're closing it down. No.
right.
Yeah. Well, we thought we had Dan back for a second, but he seems to have disappeared again.
Does anyone think that the PR angle on the Glass announcement was handled well?
No.
I would say had I been in charge of it, I would have made. Actually, no, they did it just fine. They did it correctly. They made a normal announcement saying, "Hey, we're moving forward," and that's it. I mean, I wouldn't have necessarily said where it went and all that stuff, but no, we're closing the program. We're done. We got our data that we needed. This was a beta. We got our data. We're done.
Does it say something that so many media outlet? If you look at the actual, I think the first thing was from the Dow Jones Wire. That was the first initial leak that came out, and then very shortly afterward, within like an hour or so, Google confirmed that they were doing this. And the actual Dow Jones leak said that they're moving it to Nest, that they're ending the Explorer program, and that they're continuing the Work program. And it really wasn't that bad of an
Just to
announcement of a
clarify, they're
leak.
not moving it to Nest.
I mean, I'm sorry, they're putting it under the purview of the co-founder of Nest, who also made the
Right.
iPod. But if you look at the actual post from the Dow Jones Wire, it's not as negative as all of the people who wrote about it. So, is this the product was a victim of the predisposition to be negative and trolling on the part of all these media folks, when really the initial leak wasn't at all what was reported? It just said it's going to be the Nest guy's going to be in charge of it now, and the Explorer program's ending. And then all these stories came out. Google, I mean, Drudge Report, all caps. Uh, Google ends Glass or drops Glass or whatever, and on and on. And to another story I highlighted on a Friday show, Google Plus Week, which is at Friday, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, post Meridian, and they said that it was Google was not throwing in the towel. What they say that not even um, the guy who invented the iPod may not even be may not even be able to save Glass. It was that sort of thing. So, what's the reason for all the negativity? The AP story referred to it as a freakish device in the first paragraph, and I went there specifically because I figured it would be an impartial story because it was AP, because I was hearing all these negative things. What's going on?
Maybe I don't know. Maybe originally a lot of people were probably bitter because they were shut out all the stuff that went wrong with the beginning of the program, and I think the hate has just been there since. I mean, honestly, with the if I had Glass, and then it just a lot of people being shut out kind of made people despise the product beforehand, and so it's just a people hate it, and that's just how it's been since then. Really, what's your assessment, Alan? You think that's about right?
Yeah.
I still think if it was a pair of glasses and it was a very small thing that was almost not noticeable, it would be a whole different perception. Um,
No.
okay, so we disagree. A rare moment of disagreement between Alan and myself. Do we have any more topics, guys?
No.
Okay. All right. So let me look here and see if I think we're good there. YouTube comments, and we're good there. Okay. So any final words, Cadeas? Anything else? A man of many words. Cadeas is our spokesman for the
I
program.
never end the show though. You do.
We want to appreciate you watching. We really enjoy it, and sorry for the late start. That was my fault. Uh, House full of kids is always fun. So, and the kitchen is completely destroyed, just as an afterthought. So we have two programs: the aforementioned Google Plus Week, which is every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific on Friday nights on YouTube Live and Google Plus, and also this program, which is our Android Week, which is roughly around 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific on Monday nights. On this program, we discuss all things Android, thus the name. Thank you very much for watching. We really do appreciate it. Thank you all for your comments during and after the show, and we will see you next Android Week. Take care. Thanks.